Good morning. This is a very special day for multiple reasons. One is the feast of Blessed Stanley Rother, Blessed Stanley Francis Rother, our Oklahoma priest who was martyred 52 years ago in Guatemala. This is why we wear red today in the Diocese of Tulsa and the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. Elsewhere in the world, they're wearing green. And just celebrating the 17th Sunday of Ordinary Time, but in our diocese it's a solemnity today. The second reason of great rejoicing is that today the three Craig sisters will receive their sacraments, be brought into full communion in the church, baptisms and confirmations and First Holy Communions. And we're very excited for you. And finally, today is kind of the conclusion of a series of homilies, as you know, that Father O'Brien and I have been preaching on the topic of making Sunday really Sunday, making Sunday a day of the Lord, a day of prayer, a day of rest, a day for God and of the family. And all of these things actually don't call for 4 different homilies. There's an immense connection between all of them. And it's found in something I would like to point out to you from our gospel and how it aligns with the life of Blessed Stanley Rother. For those who don't know very much or aren't familiar with the life of Blessed Stanley Rother, he was born in Okarche, Oklahoma. He grew up at Holy Trinity Parish down there in Okarche, not too far away from here. And when he was ordained a priest, he served in 4 different priestly assignments in Oklahoma, 3 of which were in our diocese of Tulsa, and 2 of which I've lived in the rectories he lived in. It's the most amazing thing. He's just raised of our soil. And he went down to be a missionary in Guatemala, and during his time in Guatemala, he found out that his name was on a hit list, a government hit list, because the corrupt government in Guatemala was very bitterly anti-Catholic and saw the Catholic Church as trying to ruin their plans. So his bishop called him back to Oklahoma. And he returned to Oklahoma, but his family said that he would spend hours on end, literally hours on end, standing at the back door of the house staring south. And they knew he was going to go back. They knew it. It wasn't a surprise when he asked permission from the bishop to go back to Guatemala. And he famously said, "The shepherd cannot run at the first sign of danger. They are my sheep. I'm their shepherd. I need to be there with them." And so I think the most remarkable thing that we need to pay attention to in the life of Blessed Stanley Rother is not just the fact that 3 or 4 months after he returned to Guatemala, thugs broke into his rectory and shot him. It's not just the fact that he died that is responsible for the fact that we're celebrating him. It's the fact that he went back. He went back. Why? He didn't go back to be shot. He didn't go back to die. He went back to serve his people, to love them, to be their priest, and to be the priest that Jesus Christ sent him to Guatemala to be. And there was something so real that he wanted, so good that he wanted, it was worth risking his life to do it. It was worth hazarding this life for the good that couldn't be snuffed out by the assassin's bullets. When our Lord tells us in our gospel today that there is a man who is searching for buried treasure It's not just a man who has found a treasure buried in the field. It's not just that he's searching for it, he's found it. He's found the treasure. And listen, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure buried in a field which a person finds. It's not a hunch. He hasn't simply followed the trail, followed the treasure map, and gotten to where there's an X in the ground, and he thinks there's probably treasure here. He knows it's there. He's dug it up. And we're told that he finds it, and then he hides it again. Why does he hide it again? Because he doesn't own it. It's not his. It's not his field. He can't keep any treasure that's found in it. And so he goes back and he sells everything that he's got in order to buy that field. Not just as a risk. There's no risk involved. It's absolute certainty. He knows what's in that field, and he could never afford to buy all that treasure. But he can afford to buy the field. And if he gets the field, the treasure is his. And our Lord pairs this with another that might seem just like a reiteration, but it's not. It's different. Of the merchant who's looking for fine pearls, and he finds a pearl of great price. This merchant knows the difference between a cheap synthetic pearl and a really valuable, rare, and precious pearl. And he sees this one pearl. Maybe it's in the corner of a tray on some table in a flea market, but he knows what it's worth. And he's willing to sell everything to buy it. Who is that merchant? Who is that merchant? It's our Lord. Our Lord Jesus Christ. And what is the pearl that he has found? What is that precious gem that he has found that he is willing, and not only willing, but did pour out everything for? He sold everything, not just his house, not just his car, not just his TV, not just his belongings, not just his material possessions. He sold his very life. He gave every drop of his blood for that pearl. What is that pearl? It is your heart. It is your immortal soul. It is your love that he wants so much. He desires it so much that he was willing to sell everything. I think we need to really get this into our heads, because we can sometimes think of sacrifice as just being for the sake of sacrifice, that it's glorious to give your life for something. But nobody gives up everything in order to have nothing. People only give up things for the sake of something better. They only buy something if they think it's worth their money. And when our Lord gave his life for you and for me, it wasn't because he just wanted to show us that he loved us so much that he would die. He knew that by pouring out his life's blood, he would show us how precious we are, how much he wants us. Just like that merchant who finds the pearl of great price. And in exchange, he offers to sell us his field. Yes, it's his field that has the treasure in it. And he has hidden the treasure there so that we might find it. The treasure buried in the field. The treasure that was crucified, died, and was buried in that field. And it's going to cost us everything. But that's just to buy the field. We could never buy the treasure. We get the whole treasure if we buy the field with everything we've got. And I think the only reason we would not buy that field, the only reason we would not sell everything we have in order to obtain it is if we don't really fully and totally understand and appreciate the vastness, the immensity, the great value, and the eternal joy that comes from having it. If we truly understand what heaven is, we'd be ready, like Blessed Stanley Rother, to shed every drop of our blood to buy it. And the glory of what we celebrate today in the sacraments that these three will receive today, but that we have all received, everyone here who has been baptized, everyone here who has been confirmed, everyone who has received Holy Communion has received the gift they are going to receive today. And that gift can't be bought. You can't buy it. Even if you could sell the whole world for it, you couldn't buy it. It's given. It's sold to you simply for your life. We must simply sell our pride, our bitterness, our unforgiveness, our unwillingness to serve others, our unwillingness to bend. We must simply sell our desire for this world to be it. And then we find we've found something so much more precious and so much more real that we feel like we made the best bargain and the best deal possible. And so let us ask Blessed Stanley Rother today to teach us how to shed our lives, even if we never have to pour out our life's blood. That every beat of our heart, every thought, every moment of our time, and most especially the Sundays that we are given to honor the Lord, would be days consecrated and time consecrated and beats of hearts consecrated to the love of God and to letting His kingdom be known here on earth. And when we have sold everything, we'll find we get everything 10 times, 100 times, 1,000,000 times, and more over. And it was totally worth it.